I'm going to start this particular recipe making my cinnamon compound butter. I've got a half a cup or a stick of butter, a quarter of a cup of maple syrup. If you do not have maple syrup, honey will do wonderfully. A combination of the spices that you see here, allspice, cinnamon, cloves, ginger, and nutmeg, and my vanilla extract and maple extract. Now, you do not have to have maple extract, but this is just one of those things to kind of, reinforce the maple syrup that I have here. And I'm going to just start whipping this up really as quickly as I can. This is one of those things, whatever kind of celebration you're having, for whatever holiday that you have, it's really nice to have this, any kind of a compound butter, no matter if you're serving a bread or even a steak, in a little bell jar, and everyone gets their own little pat of butter. But that's looking not bad. And I like, when I'm making compound butters, I like to mix this very, very well. So I'm going to mix this like for the next probably 5 minutes or so, just to make sure this is mixed very well. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I certainly don't want to do that with the maple. I think I'm going to add, I did take a wee bit of a taste of my maple and butter, and you definitely can taste the maple in there. So you don't want to add, maybe a 1/16, of maple extract, if I can. That's plenty. That's absolutely plenty. And I'm going to get this mixed, and then I'll add the spices. And it's looking and smelling really, really good. And in go my spices. And certainly if you have an aversion to any of these spices, you can certainly leave it out. And, as always, I will drop the ingredients in the description box below. And it's looking just really, really very, very nice. And you don't have to necessarily make this particular banana bread to have this cinnamon compound butter. And there we go. It's looking pretty good. And there we go. It is just that easy. It's just that quick. And without further ado, I'm going to get started on the maple banana bread. I already have these two particular filled with some butter. And now, before you start serving this up, my butter was salted. If your butter is unsalted, you may want to add just a pinch of salt. I always taste before I get things, kind of served up. But I'm just, putting a little dollop on here and making a mess. Let's see. Smoothing this out where there's no bubbles or empty spaces, and giving it, and wipe this. And there you go. And there you go. It is just that easy. The rest of this, of course, is going to be good for toast. I just bet this is going to be really good on maybe French toast, something like that. But I have plenty left over. So just use your imagination to where you want to use some compound cinnamon butter. So while I am getting everything as organized as humanly possible here, one thing that I didn't want to interrupt mixing this is I've got some unrefined virgin coconut oil. I've got 1/4 cup of it. I'm going to probably put it in a smaller bowl and gently in the microwave, very gently melt this until it's liquid to add to this. 1/4 cup. I'm going to start my recipe with my wet ingredients. I've got about 4 bananas here. Now, if you're not sure, this is about 1 1/4 cups. I have already mashed them and mixed them. I'm going to add my eggs, 2 room temperature eggs. I've got 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And I have 2 teaspoons and 1/16 teaspoon of maple extract. And we're going to just get this mixed up. And I've got my coconut oil here that I've melted in the microwave, and I'm going to just add that. And get every last bit of everything that I have in here. And that looks pretty good. I've got my all-purpose flour. If you want to use whole wheat flour, that is totally fine too. I'm making a mess. Y'all know I'm always going to be making a mess. I've got a little bit of salt, cinnamon, and some baking soda. And you know, again, I will tell y'all, I will drop all of the measurements and ingredients in the description box, okay? So there's no need to become upset or anything like that. 1 1/2 cups, I believe. And yes, that was so unceremonious. I just put this right in here. Now, if you want, after you have everything mixed up, if you want to add walnuts or pecans chopped, whichever one you prefer, about 1 cup if you're going to add nuts. And I think last time I made banana bread, I did not add nuts. This time I'm going to add 1 cup of pecans. I have not toasted these pecans. The ones I toasted the other day went into a different recipe in my oatmeal raisin, my world famous oatmeal cookie recipe, but I'm going to add 1 cup of just plain chopped pecans in this. I'm going to give it a good scrape. As you can see, there is a lot that kind of, or can, cling onto here. And it's looking pretty good. I think it's looking really good. I've got my loaf pan ready. I've got my cinnamon, my compound cinnamon maple butter ready. And we are going to bake this. I'm going to preheat it to 350 degrees, and I can't express the importance of preheating your oven. I'm going to, I think I'm going to probably bake this about 50 to 55 minutes. Of course, your oven is completely different than mine, but do a skewer test. And I wouldn't be too upset if it was, a few crumbs come up with it, or if it's slightly moist. That's okay. You certainly don't want it moist. But 50 to 55 minutes at 350.